Hello and welcome into another edition of the Prep Zone here on DMVSTREAM.COM. I'm Jeremy Huber, joined today by Brandon Parker of the Washington Post and Marissa Pilla of Comcast Sportsnet, taking you through everything in the DMV when it comes to high school sports. Of course, football season winding down, state championships to be decided, also bursts in state championship games to be handed out this weekend. So a lot to talk about on the show today. Really excited to have you guys with us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, a lot of great games that happened this past weekend and a lot of great games to preview state, like you said, state championship games. So this is what everybody waits for all season long.
And let's take a look at what we have to look at this weekend. We'll be recapping a few games. Of course, that Turkey Bowl matchup between HD Woodson and Wilson. Also a big one between South County and Robinson in Virginia. Also Lake Braddock and Westfield in Virginia. Howard and Broadneck in Maryland. Some previews of some big games, the state championship tilt between Wise and Howard. Also two big ones that'll decide state championship berths in Virginia, Westfield, South County, Stonebridge, and Tuscarora. And also our Josh Apple will catch up with Hayfield running back Miles Ross. He a Rhode Island commit. We're going to do all that coming up here on the Prep Zone right after this.
Okay, so as the official video partner of the 2015 World Police and Fire Games, our team at Synthesis Multimedia is at more than 50 events this week, shooting video, providing highlight packages, and live streaming. One of our locations for streaming is the Ashburn Ice House. We're streaming 15 hockey games from this venue this week. Division I ice hockey. We've got a team of about 8 here. At any given moment. As you can see over my shoulder, we have our director who is currently preparing the broadcast. We'll have camera operators up on a high home camera, and then also someone down on the sidelines getting a secondary shot. Our director will be live weaving those shots together, as well as we'll have instant replay operators, graphics, and then also someone to monitor the stream. The stream is available worldwide and can be viewed at Fairfax2015.com. We're pushing that out so that all the different countries who are participating in this event, the people back home, can view these streams live on the web. Our highlight packages are also dropping on YouTube, so people can view those within 2 hours of the final whistle of any of the games or events or competitions that we cover. We'll take all this media that's centrally located within our archives, and we'll have one of our editors create a video that will be shown on the final day of closing ceremonies at Wolf Trap in Vienna in Fairfax County.
Welcome back into the Prep Zone here on DMVSTREAM.COM. Now, first up on the show, it's time now for our weekend rewind, and we start in the District of Columbia. Marissa, with the traditional Turkey Bowl matchup this year, it was HD Woodson and Wilson.
Yes, it was the 46th annual Turkey Bowl between these two teams. What a great Thanksgiving tradition between these two teams. Now, Mark Giannotto of the Washington Post reported that the day prior at the luncheon, Wilson coach Mark Martin forgot the name of quarterback Khalil Wright for HD Woodson. I don't think he's going to make that mistake again, because Khalil Wright lit up the field. He was 13 for 23, 272 yards, and 5 touchdowns. This is the third straight Turkey Bowl victory for Woodson, and it's the 6th time in 8 years they've won the DCIAA champions. So Wright scored touchdowns on 3 consecutive passes, so he just was pretty much in control of this game the entire time. They'll face Gonzaga on Saturday for a championship at Howard that could potentially lead to more playoff victories.
Well, it could be a big championship game. There's a really team will be crowned the top team in DC at that point, public and private. But as you mentioned, though, again, a winds up really good season for HD Woodson as they come back after a tough start, and they end up coming back after 2-4 start on the season. You're obviously a performer right in this one.
Yes, and he even said after the game, like, I wanted to go out there and make him know my name. So a bit of a slip up from just the opposite head coach that maybe played a bit of a role. Maybe it gave Wright a little more fire to do well. It's also a big game, big rivalry. Just more fuel to the fire for this kid, so he went out there and produced.
Most definitely, Marissa. And the other interesting thing in this contest was the fact that Wilson, great season for them with 11 straight wins, but it's bookended by losses to HD Woodson in the Turkey Bowl matchup. First game of the season, it was a loss to Good Counsel, a team out of the WCAC, so probably not the way they wanted to wrap their season up, but hey, a good season for the Tigers nonetheless. Let's go ahead and take a look at our second game here on the Weekend Rewind. That would be a game in the state of Virginia. That'd be South County and Robinson, Brandon.
Yeah, this one was a grinded out game, which was different than South County was accustomed to all season long. They'd averaged 43 points a game, South County, and they'd never scored less than 30 points. But in this one, you know, I thought going in, Robinson, the way they play, they don't really pass the ball much, so they like to grind it out, and that could really, you know, limit the opportunities that South County had on offense, and to their credit, they did that well. But you see right here, this was the game changer. South County's defense, which, you know, gets lost in all those points that they score, they really came up big. Kofi Bell had that interception return for a touchdown, and that was the go-ahead score in the 2015 win for South County. And I think for them that bodes well this time of the season where, you know, the games get tougher, the opponents are always going to be a lot better than they've seen in the past. So to win a grinded out game like this, I think will help them going forward when they play Westfield. But that's not to say, you know, that the offense couldn't explode next week or later on after that. But to have their defense come through, I think, was really gratifying for them in a game like this.
Yeah, I think the interesting was as we actually look at our top performer in this one, Kevin
Allen.
Allen.
Kevin Allen, yeah, he's been a beast all season long, and at linebacker position, he's everywhere from, you know, he gets in the backfield, he can cover passes as well, and he's just an explosive guy, a hard hitter, and you see the numbers he put up there. That's pretty much what he's been doing all season long. So again, those numbers get lost in the offense, but at this point in the season, you're going to need those type of numbers to really pull out these wins.
And one of the interesting notes in this contest was the fact that this was their lowest scoring output of the season.
Right.
Only had 20 points. Only had one other game where they were below 20 points or below 30 points on the season. And oh, by the way, it was against Westfield. So it should be an interesting match when those two meet up. We'll talk about that one later on in the show. We'll have more of the Prep Zone coming up after this.
It's not easy to do. Even rolling to your right is right here.
Down 3, ready for number 4. 1, and out to 4.
For men, Daniel Joe could go down with a right ankle injury. He kind of limped.
Flat, hold down. It'll be number 82, Joe Jordan.
Terrible. Yeah, you did that good. Pass rush. You know, they had to run the ball a ton. 69 receptions a year ago. And averages, he was unable to drag that foot. You know, one of these tackles for loss. You know, guy who'll be over on down. And then this game tonight, they want to head back to Poughkeepsie at 500 as well. Yeah, absolutely. You got to be fundamentally sound when this defense gets out there. They just got to do one.
You're obviously a guy, a ball hawk back there.
It was a major point of emphasis for us. Again, also, we need to be a better third down situation.
So much spread. And there's finally a handoff.
Calhoun's going to get to the
Welcome back into the Prep Zone. Now we turn our attention to a matchup in Maryland. An interesting one that handed out a state championship berth, Marissa, as it was Howard taking on Broadneck.
Yes, this was a state semifinal game, as you mentioned. Now, Howard entered the game undefeated, but they were in a similar position last season. They entered a semifinal game undefeated and were completely upset by Old Mill, and they didn't want that to happen again, so they were okay this time, of course, winning 35-24 over Broadneck. Broadneck actually had a 10-point lead after the first quarter, but in the following 3 quarters is really when Howard just exploded, mostly due in large part to Malik Anderson, a senior running back. He had 21 carries for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. He finishes the season up until now with 1,837 rushing yards. He's 6th in the AllMet. So really such a dynamic force for this team. They will play Henry A. Wise on Friday, December 4th at M&T Bank Stadium, of course, for the state champion. This is their first trip to the state championship in 40 years. So a lot riding on Friday's game. Of course, I'll be previewing that game in a little bit later on in the show. It's going to be an exciting game between two dynamic offenses and running backs, but great showing by Howard.
Yeah, and an interesting game as Broadneck kind of got there with some upsets, knocking off Old Mill, a team you mentioned earlier on. Howard getting there undefeated on the year, 13-0, and you mentioned that 40 years since they've been in a state championship game. It's been 41 years since they actually won one, so it's been a while. Of course, the guy you talked about, Malik Anderson, he's been there all year long.
He really has. He's going to be such a weapon for them come Friday's game. I mean, look for him to get the majority of the looks on the offensive ball. He just really has exploded for them throughout this season. Just really a great weapon all around.
Yeah, Anderson, quite the running back for this team at Howard. Let's go ahead and take a look at our final game of the weekend rewind. That is another Virginia contest, as it was Westfield, again, getting the dupe on Lake Braddock, Brandon.
Yeah, this one had a lot of anticipation, being the third time that they played each other in the playoffs, all at the same point in the region semifinal. And the talk was that Lake Braddock had geared everything to changing their offense, changing the way they do things to beat Westfield. But first play from scrimmage for Westfield, they're the ones that throw a kink in things with putting Tyler Scanlon at wide receiver. And you see he was just dominant there. You know, it's not new to see him at the receiver position. He played there last year, but he had been at quarterback, and it's just a way to get the ball in his hands. But with his size, and like he said, you know, a summer of boxing out guys, you know, on the court in basketball, it got me ready for this, because when he lined up at receiver, he was the only guy out at wide out. So you would think, you know, you could throw a triple team at him and stop him, but didn't make a difference. They threw the ball up to him, and he really changed the complexion of that game. But also credit to Westfield's defense, which has come up big all season long. They came into the game only allowing 11 points. This time they gave up one touchdown, and they picked off 4 passes in the first half. Kevin Petrillo, the linebacker, this is his second game in a row. He's had 2 interceptions. So they've really just clamped down, and the more opportunities the offense has gotten for Westfield, the more they're able to score. They've had to work out some kinks, and they've had different looks, but this could be something that helps them going forward. Again, you look at Scanlon's numbers, which are tremendous, and he's still lined up at quarterback a few times. He completed all 7 of his passes, so just a great day for him. And Westfield again prevails against the Lake Braddock team in the playoffs.
And quickly, because you cover these guys, crazy that Kyle Simmons, a defensive guy, is the one that kind of throws in the monkey wrench on offense to say, hey, let's go ahead and mix it up a bit, right?
Yeah, he's got a great coaching staff, and that was kind of a meeting of the minds. And even Tyler said he kind of threw out the idea as well. Maybe he just wanted to take credit for it, but either way, yeah, Kyle Simmons is a great coach. You know, he gets his guys right, and he's open to, you know, whatever it takes to win at this point in the season.
Some quality teams there in 6A North. Of course, another quality team in 6A North, that would be the Hayfield Hawks. Our Josh Apple, our recruiting analyst, had a chance to catch up with the star running back of Hayfield, Miles Ross, earlier on.
I'm here with Miles Ross, Hayfield senior running back. Miles set all kinds of records in his career with Hayfield. He also just recently committed to Rhode Island, where we'll be playing football next year.
Yes, sir.
We'll get into that. We'll get into the records. We'll get into what you're doing next year. But first of all, you're never playing a high school football game again. What does that feel like to you right now?
It's a crazy feeling. This came a lot faster than I thought it would. Being a freshman, my dad would always tell me, oh, it's going to go by, these 4 years are going to go by really fast. And it came way faster than I thought, and it's just overwhelming. I mean, I guess you can say that there's no real way I feel about it. I'm happy and I'm sad about it, because all the memories I made with the people that I've been playing with for years all come to an end, but it's bittersweet because I'm moving on to bigger and better things.
Here you see some of your highlights. Obviously, you had a lot of success with Hayfield. Do you have a favorite memory that you can identify?
There's too many.
How about what do you miss most?
The bonds, my friends, the support they gave me. Every game, we'd always tell each other, I've got their back, they've got my back. And that was just one thing that I've always stressed, that if they laid out for me, then I'd definitely lay myself out on the line for them.
once again, we saw some impressive highlights there. So that play has earned you some interesting nicknames. Can you tell us about some of those nicknames?
Well, my most popular Twitter name, Sauce Boss. And then we've got my coach, who calls me Wild Miles Ross, and his favorite, which is Barbie.
Barbie.
Yeah.
All right, there you have it. Miles Ross, nicknamed Barbie. Okay, so now let's get into the records. I mean, you set all kinds of records. Do you know how many you set? According to the Hayfield website, 22 rushing records. I didn't even know there were 22 things
I
you could
didn't
break.
mean either.
But you set the career rushing yards record with over 3,500. You set the record for rushing yards in a season with over 1,800, and a single game, as you see here, with 335 earlier this season against Yorktown. What do all those records mean to you?
It means a lot because one thing that when I got on varsity I told myself was that I wanted to make a name for myself, and I wanted to leave a legacy at this school because my brother, who had played running back before me, made a name for himself, and he always told me, create your own path, set the foundation for who I have is my younger brother Andrew Ross, who's coming up. I just wanted to put my name in something that could be permanent, which I hope nobody breaks. But it felt great because anything that you set out to do feels good, and when you accomplish it.
If you want to see more of that Josh's interview with Miles Ross, you can go ahead and do it by going to DMVSTREAM.COM. Let's go ahead now and get into the AllMetSports.com weekly fast forward. We mentioned this one earlier, a big game, battle of undefeateds in Maryland for a state championship. It's Wise versus Howard, Marissa.
Well, we talked about Howard, their come from behind victory to get to this point, but Wise is kind of coming off of a different win. They came off of a 37-15 victory over Northwest. They have a rough and tough defense paired with a no-huddle offense, so they really get it done on both sides of the ball. Now, as I mentioned before, Howard is there for the first time in 40 years, so they have a lot of passion coming into this game, really want to kind of rewrite some history for this team. Now, I think this game is really going to come down to the running backs. I talked about Malik Anderson earlier, how he's such a weapon, but Wise has their own running back you should watch out for, and that's CJ Rainey. He has 1,609 yards on 233 carries this season, so they both have 23 touchdowns this year, so they're really neck and neck, and that's kind of the story of both these teams. Statistically, when you look at both these teams, they're kind of at the same point in ball carries and yards allowed and averages, so it's kind of tough to decide, like, okay, where's everybody's weaknesses, but as I said before, Wise is so dynamic on both sides of the ball, and that's why I think I'm going to give the edge to Wise for the Maryland State Championship.
Of course, we'll get in that in just a second. CJ Rainey, the running back, you mentioned, again, those numbers don't grow on trees.
No. And it's just amazing that he's been able to do this, and they have a lot of other weapons as well. So I really think running backs is where this game is going to see a lot of action on both from both teams.
And, of course, on the other side for Howard, as you mentioned, they've got a good one as well, the Mighty Might in Malik Anderson.
Yes, as I said before, he's just been such a dynamic player for them. He really carried that team in their win to get to this championship game. So he could be riding high on that feeling of confidence, feeling of bringing his team. He's a senior. This is like that moment that he's been working for. So maybe there's a lot of passion, a lot of emotion heading into this game for him.
Anderson got banged up in that win over Broadneck, but he's supposed to be healthy right now. I had a chance to talk to their coach, Bruce Strunk, said he should be fine for that playoff matchup. But these two teams look to finish off unbeaten seasons. Marissa, who do you think does it?
As I said, I'm going to go with Wise on this one. I just kind of think they have the edge.
But you, Brandon?
Yeah, I got to go with Wise. They won it a few years ago, and Howard's had a great season, but I think that championship experience will be the difference for Wise.
I agree with you. I think Wise just too good of a team. They've only really had one close game all year. That came in the opener against the two-time defending state champs, Douglas. Interesting thing, though, these two teams kind of play in their own counties. Howard in Howard County, also Wise, in Prince George's County. So two kind of sides mixing here. We'll see exactly who comes out with the win in the state championship. And we continue with the AllMet Sports Weekly Fast Forward. We're now joined by the guys from Rebel Run Sports and Entertainment, John Moore and Rob Giampapa. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Before we get to the big matchup this week between South County and Westfield, I want to talk a little bit about what you guys do as a company.
All right, we're a multi-level media company highlighting sports and entertainment all over Northern Virginia. Since there's no professional sporting teams in Northern Virginia, we focus the sports aspect of what we do on the high schools. So football, basketball, girls volleyball, you name it, we're covering it.
Yeah, we really just want to give kids more opportunities. We think there's a lot of talent in the area, and we want to help them get some more opportunities to be seen.
And obviously, in the area we're in, a very high level of sports being played, correct?
Absolutely.
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 There's a lot of kids in a lot of different sports that don't get the attention that football does, because football is king everywhere. So it's important for us to kind of reach out to those other, wrestling and a lot of those other programs that kids need the same, spotlight on them as everyone else.
Yeah, and obviously we do that here at DMVSTREAM.COM, so anytime we have somebody out there giving the kids what they deserve when it comes to coverage, we love it. Let's go ahead and get into this game this week, talk about that matchup between Westfield and South County. It is a rematch of a game earlier in the season won by South County. We'll start with you, John. Tell us about this Westfield Bulldogs program.
They're strong. They got talent all over the board. Coach Kyle Simmons has them playing their best right now. Their only loss was earlier in the season to South County, as you said, a game that, due to coach's decision, 8 of the kids sat out for. So I know those 8 kids and the rest of the team been looking forward to playing South County at full strength, so it should be fun to watch.
Yeah, obviously, still a close game despite that maybe disparity with guys being out of the game. Can you tell us a little bit about a guy to watch in this matchup for Westfield?
Tyler Scanlon. He played wide receiver last year, quarterback all season, and coach put him back at wide receiver for the game against Lake Braddock. And with Rahman Johnson, the junior, playing quarterback, they played pitch and catch all game long, and Lake Braddock had nothing for him. So it'll be fun to see how South County has prepared for a different situation than they played for earlier in the year.
And of course, Scanlon last year spent his time as a wide receiver, coming back to the quarterback spot now. So it's something he's used to, even if the team they faced off last week really wasn't used to seeing him out there. Right. Now let's go ahead and switch it over to the South County side of things. Rob, talk about what the Stallions, undefeated on the year, bring to the table.
Well, absolutely undefeated, like you said, but they run a high-tempo offense. They score about 42 points a game. They're only giving up 18. Kevin Allen, their stud linebacker, is all over the place. He had 14 tackles in the game against Robinson, 2 sacks, including one that ended the game. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game. Like John said, Westfield's got a tough defense. They're big and strong, so it's going to be a nice matchup.
And who's the player to watch in this one for the Stallions?
Man, I think DeAndre Clayton, quarterback, senior. He's 66% on the year. He's only thrown 6 interceptions. Westfield's taken 7 picks away in the last 2 games, so it's going to be a nice matchup for him. He runs that offense really well.
Of course, got to find out who we're going to pick in this matchup. These 2 teams, of course, facing off. I guess we'll start off with you, Rob. Who you have in this one between South County and Westfield? I'm
going to take South County. I think DeMarcus Ramsey, he was slowed a little bit last week by that tough Rams defense, but I think he'll get it going. And they have Michael Salisbury, who just seems to make plays all over the place.
How about you, John?
Now, I may be a little biased. This is the 20th year anniversary of what I consider the greatest high school team ever, coached by Tom Verbanek, the 1995 Fairfax Rebels. And on that team, they had 2 assistant coaches, Dan Keating and Lindsey Ott, who are assistant coaches on this Westfield team, so I'm taking Westfield.
Well, I'm going to go Westfield as well. I think, as you kind of pointed out, missing all those guys, and then, of course, going on with without a lot of those guys through that period has made Westfield a stronger team than the first time these guys played. I'm going with the Bulldogs in this one as well to pull the upset. Guys, it's John Moore and Rob Giampapa from Rebel Run Sports and Entertainment. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Our final game that we're going to look at this weekend, our preview is the fast forward, as we go ahead and take a look at the other playoff game in Virginia. That's the matchup between Stonebridge and Tuscarora, a Loudoun County matchup. Brandon, talk about this one.
Yeah, this is kind of the new kid on the block versus the old kid on the block, with Stonebridge having all their success in the past and Tuscarora looking to get back to their second straight state final. It definitely will be a lot closer game and better game than the first time they played. Stonebridge has their quarterback back in Joe Thompson, and last week they pulled out a really gritty, gutsy win against a very good Massaponax team. It looked like they were going to be, on their way to another loss. They were down by 20 at one point in the second half, and I think what's helped is their flexibility to, if the single wing offense that they're so much known for isn't working well, they're willing to still within that formation, but spread things out if they need to. So I think you might see that again this week, because Tuscarora being so familiar with Stonebridge's offense. But Tuscarora they've been rolling through the season. You saw, even though Stonebridge put up 50 points, Tuscarora somehow put up more points than them last week with 63. And a lot of that has to do with their quarterback, Daniel Smith. He's throwing the ball, he's run the ball, whatever they need him to do. He's kind of been that guy like Noah Reimers was last year for him. He put up nearly 4,000 yards on the ground and through the air. You see he's thrown for 24 touchdowns, rushed for 21. I mean, that's heck of a season for him. So they're going to have to find a way to slow him down, Stonebridge's defense. But, it's going to be a real physical contest, really, again, closely competitive and closely played, I should say. And I think Tuscarora is my pick to win, but I think it's really going to come down to the wire.
And of course, Smith back after really being banged up, a knee injury last year, kind of missed a lot of the season. So we'll see if that extra health for Daniel Smith helps him out. Of course, the other guy for Stonebridge, Joe Thompson, again, he was hurt this year, but again, he's looked very good since he's come back. Yeah.
Now that he's back, they feel like they're all on the same page. And I mean, nobody's totally healthy, but to have your quarterback back and playing like he is, I think, again, will make a big difference for Stonebridge. So again, you kind of see this battle of the quarterbacks, two different styles in that Joe, really likes to run in that offense, but he's shown his ability to find the open man when, again, Stonebridge spreads things out and tries to throw off the defense. So again, those two are really the ones to watch this week.
And of course, you're going with Tuscarora in this one, or
Stonebridge?
Stonebridge?
Tuscarora, a close one, but Tuscarora.
Marissa, your pick?
I'm going with Tuscarora as well.
Yeah, I'm going with Tuscarora in this contest. And interesting factoid in this, these two teams used to scrimmage each other on an annual basis, really before they kind of got bigger and better. So one of those things now where they're playing each other every single year when it comes to district play. Should be interesting to see how this one goes. 9-4 for Stonebridge, their last loss, folks. That one came against Tuscarora. They've won 5 straight since, and as Brandon said, Tuscarora undefeated on the season at 13-0. Both these teams with state championship coaches as well. Mike Burnett, also Mickey Thompson on the other side of things for Stonebridge. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Prep Zone. Want to learn more? Go ahead and find out about us at DMVSTREAM.COM. So, for Brandon Parker, for Marissa Pilla, I'm Jeremy Huber. Again, thanks for watching. This has been the Prep Zone on DMVSTREAM.COM.